bring him in now. Jason Gregor from the Jason Gregor Show, TSN 1260 Edmonton. And Gregor, good to see you, my friend. Our poll question today, I'm interested in your take, is why is NHL scoring way up? The options: less hitting, more skill, goaltenders, equipment, or other. Have you thought about this?
Oh yeah, I've thought about it. We've talked about it. I think it's twofold. I see the lack of physical play. It's a little easier around the net. You know, you're not getting murdered with cross checks. But the biggest difference has been today's young players have skills coaches. And not just today's young players. Ovechkin has one. McDavid has one. So you have guys, for so many years, you had a goalie coach who worked only with the goalies in the offseason. And the players, and even some coaches would be like, yeah, you know what? You guys cross center, you figure it out and do what you want. Let's focus on defense. Well, now you have players, paying pretty significant dollars sometimes to have a skills coach who works on the finer parts of the game, whether it's picking pucks off boards cleanly every time for a defenseman, whether it's, learning to shoot repetitive in tight to get pucks up. And they're just better finishers. But finally, we've seen more of an emphasis on skill, and it's evening out. And, thankfully, it's making the goaltenders a little bit less important. And that's not a knock on goalies. It's just, you don't need to be the game that all it is goaltending. So it's nice to see that if you have guys that can finish, they can help.
Great answer. I think the biggest, broadest question I have for you is what's Edmonton going through right now? I didn't think they'd turn it around, and clearly they have. What's that city like right now?
Well, I think, some Oilers fans are super stoked. There's others that are a little cautious because of the past. But to me, the past is the past. This team is very different than it was last year. They have a different coach. But I just look at their top 9 forwards. Kane, Hyman, and Foegele are infinitely bigger, faster, and better than the 3 guys they replaced in the top 9 last year. Keep in mind, Zach Cassian and Ryan McLeod in the final 2 games of that Jet series, they were in their top 6 or top 9 for sure. Really, on the second line, right? Same with Devon Shore. So now you have McLeod and Cassian more as like your 10th, 11th forwards who move up and down the lineup, and they have way more depth. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is at center. Draisaitl and McDavid are on their own lines. They still play together every now and then on the odd shift, but they center their own lines. The Oilers are bigger, tougher up front. My only concern is, do they have enough size to play 4 rounds of the playoffs on the back end? That's going to be my concern, especially with Darnell Nurse banged up. Now, Rod, I reported yesterday on Darnell Nurse. He's not going to play the next 3 games this week. And they're hoping, as of yesterday, that he could be ready for game 1 of the playoffs. But they'll know better by Friday to see kind of how he reacts, which is good news. It doesn't sound like it's long term, but he might not be ready for game 1. Who knows? Against the LA Kings, most likely. So if Nurse is out, that's a massive blow. And the Oilers' defense, it's not that big to begin with. It gets a lot smaller without the guy who plays the most minutes by far against the other team's best player.
You mentioned the Kings. For the longest time, the matchup has looked like that, and it looks like it will be. So how does Edmonton feel about that matchup? How do you feel about that matchup, Oilers and Kings?
Well, Edmonton's beat them all year long. The only time LA won was with Drew Doughty in the lineup, and Drew's obviously not going to play in the postseason. So that's a major blow for the LA Kings. I still see Edmonton as the favorite. They got home ice advantage. The Oilers have been dominant on home ice here now for 2 months. I don't see any reason to change. And you know what? I'll give the fans a big shout out. The energy in Rogers' Place it's not playoffs yet, but it's been much better than it was in previous years in the regular season, where at times it was like a morgue. It was deathly quiet in there. So it's been loud. I think that's helped the team. They get a little bit more matchups. Not a lot. Jay Woodcroft doesn't chase matchups, but they become a real dominant team on home ice. And I think if that continues in the postseason, I expect them to beat LA. And I will admit, Rod, that I am slightly picking a little bit with my heart, because I want to see a Battle of Alberta for the first time in 31 years. Like it's a joke that Calgary and Edmonton haven't faced off in the playoffs in 31 years.
Jason, there will be blood in the streets if that happens. And as you know, I think we've been here for 2 months, and it's been flames, 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 a lot of flames talk. It does not take much to get the Oilers fans turned on. Now it's Oilers everywhere I go. And I got 2 jerseys here. I asked some of the security guards at the casino, which one should I hang up? They pointed to the Oilers jersey. Like, that's how I knew that the buzz is real, man. That, like I say, it doesn't take much to get Oilers fans turned on, does it?
Well, if you really look at the Oilers, for the last 40 games, Rod, they're tied with Toronto and Minnesota. They got the 5th best record in the National Hockey League. Like, they've been and Calgary's obviously still really good, right? Florida and Colorado and Calgary right up there. So, the Flames would be the favorite if indeed both teams can win their matchups. But I'll say this, I actually, Calgary's a really good team, but I think they might have a tougher matchup in Nashville than Edmonton has it with LA. To be honest, like the Nashville Predators are a big, heavy team. They got UC Saros, who's going to be a finalist for the Vezina, and goalies can win games, can steal games in the postseason. It might be him. I'd still pick the Flames today if that's who they're going to play, but Nashville is not like Nashville. They'll get their ounce of flesh, I think, at bare minimum in that series.
Nobody's celebrating a first-round matchup with Nashville around here in this town. That's the sense that I've got. But the hockey's going to be great. And lastly, whether anybody knows or not, Jason, 20 days from CFL training camps opening up. Do you have a take on the Elks? What's the vibe on that club up there?
Well, obviously, there's big questions about the quarterback. Who's going to be the quarterback? And that's not a great question to have, 3 weeks away from the season beginning. Now, I know it's training camp, so it'll sort itself out. But defensively, they'll be way better. There's no question about that. My bold prediction, Rod, they'll be better at home because it can't be worse. They'll win a game. They didn't win a home game all of last year. So, I look at where Edmonton to start right now, I would probably have them as the 5th team. In the preseason rankings, and then we'll see kind of how they look. I need to see what their offense looks like. What are they going to do? Because Chris Jones, historically, he's a defensive guy and a special teams guy, and almost like, the offense will take care of itself. But, they don't have a Mike Riley here at quarterback like they did when they won the Grey Cup in Edmonton. So maybe Nick Arkel can be that guy. I could see them having a rotation of quarterbacks a little bit.
It will be fun to watch. It always is. Jason, thanks for the time, man. Enjoy the run.
Rod, it should be a lot of fun, man, anytime.
Thank you, pal. Jason Gregor from The Jason Gregor Show, weekdays 2 to 6 p.m. Mountain on TSN 1260 Edmonton Radio. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of The Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.